Icy peaks pierce the sky, the wind howls through rocky gorges, and the glaciers creak under a pale sun. Valleys suspended in fog, rivers of ice glide silently. As the shadow of the mountain devours the horizon, the air is thin. Life clings to the abyss, and the silence is absolute. This is Annapurna, a sanctuary in the clouds, a fortress of stone and ice where the world's highest peaks stand like eternal sentinels. Here the blue ram defies gravity on impossible ledges. The red panda hides among the frozen bamboo, and the musk deer wanders like a ghost among the rhododendrons. The monal pheasant flashes with vibrant colors. The marmot watches from his stone watchtower, while the golden eagle draws circles over the void. The pika gathers grass under the shadow of the giant. The Himalayan tahr clings to vertical slopes, and the Himalayan bear turns the entire ecosystem upside down. But this icy kingdom where wildlife is displayed in all its purity is not a sanctuary of peace. It is an arena of survival, governed by the eternal laws of hunger and despair. In the lower forests, a specter glides between the branches, its golden eyes fixed on an unsuspecting Assam macaque. The clouded leopard doesn't hunt, it executes. Its attack is not a run, it is a deadly fall, a lightning bolt of claws and fangs that sinks into the nape of the neck, forever silencing the pulse of the jungle. From the shadowy valleys, a cold howl announces the verdict, and its target is clear: a lone baral, far from the herd. The Himalayan wolfpack emerges like a tide of gray shadows. There is no single attack, but a siege of exhaustion, a relentless pursuit that culminates when the blue sheep collapses, and the snow turns a vibrant red that heralds the fall of another helpless victim. Far away, in the most desolate heights, invisible on the pale rock, the ghost of the mountain spots its prey, a defenseless musk deer grazing on the edge of a cliff. In a blink that defies distance, the snow leopard leaps. There is no struggle, just the weight of a killer bearing down on the victim's neck, taking another life before the echo of the falling rock fades. In the stone colossus, every life hangs by a thread, woven into the very geography of the place. Located in the heart of the Himalayas, Annapurna is a titanic massif, a kingdom of ice and rock. Stretching over 7,600 square kilometers, it rises like an impossible staircase that ascends from subtropical valleys at less than 1,000 meters above sea level to the icy summit of Annapurna 1, more than 8,000 meters above sea level. On its lower slopes, broadleaf forests teem with life, drowned in the monsoon's moisture. Higher up, a world of oaks, pines, and rhododendrons cling to the slopes, forming a green belt that defies the gradient. Beyond the tree line, the alpine meadow unfolds like an ephemeral tapestry, dotted with hardy flowers that bloom in a fleeting summer. And finally, everything gives way to the high-altitude desert, a world of bare rock, perpetual ice, and winds that exceed 100 kilometers per hour. Here, the temperature can fluctuate by dozens of degrees in a single day, from a scorching sun to a freezing night where survival is a battle against the air itself. In this vertical kingdom, more than 100 species of mammals, almost 500 birds, and dozens of reptiles struggle to exist. Each one is a testament to resilience, a chronicle forged in the heart of the deadliest mountain on the planet. Every life form is a victory against ice and rock. Although Annapurna means goddess of abundance, her name is a complete irony, as this land is eternally scarce. Here, every little shoot, every solitary prey, is fought over with silent ferocity. In this relentless empyrean, there are only two destinies: to hunt or to be hunted. And that deadly contest descends from the icy peaks to the heart of the forests, where a lethal hunter has made the trees his throne, a predator that moves through the canopy with the subtlety of a shadow. At just over a meter long and weighing no more than 23 kilograms, the clouded leopard moves through the lowland forests of Annapurna, like a whispering predator. Her fur, a tapestry of clouds and shadows, fades her into the dense foliage of the forest, turning her into a fleeting apparition, a fragment of the mist made flesh. Its short, powerful legs, with amazingly flexible ankles, allow it to descend from trees head first, a feat that defies balance and gravity. A tail, almost as long as her own body, sways behind her, not as an ornament, but as a rudder, an essential counterweight to her deadly acrobatics in the canopy. Its claws, sharp retractable blades up to 4 centimeters long, sink into the bark with the force of steel hooks, allowing it to move through the branches with the fluidity of a ghost. And in its jaw, it hides an ancient secret: the longest fangs in proportion to their body of any feline on the planet. 5-centimeter weapons designed not to fight but to execute, for instant death. To sustain his existence in this realm of scarcity, he needs to devour more than a kilogram of meat every day. Its diet reflects its arboreal dominance. Macaques, langurs, and unsuspecting birds are its usual prey, although it does not hesitate to descend into the shadows of the undergrowth to hunt a musk deer or a young pig. Today, hunger is a cold fire in her gut, a command that drives her to move. With his stomach growling more than ever, the hunt begins not with a run, but with a silent climb. The feline chooses a wooden giant, an ancient tree whose bark is a map of cracks and moss. His movements are fluid, deliberate. Each paw lands without a whisper, feeling the texture of the wood, avoiding the dry leaves that might betray its presence. It doesn't climb. It flows upward, an apparition rising into the canopy. Here, tens of meters high, a labyrinth of living bridges unfolds, a universe of branches and leaves where the sunlight arrives fragmented, broken. The hunter stops, motionless on a wide branch. Her large golden eyes scan the surroundings, not looking for sudden movement, but for a break in the pattern, a silhouette that doesn't belong. His ears rotate like sensitive radars, filtering the buzzing of insects, the call of a distant bird, and the sound he seeks, the confident chatter of macaques. In the distance, a troop of Assam macaques feeds. They are noisy, oblivious to the danger gliding above them. But the clouded leopard does not see the troop. His instinct isolates an individual. A young male has moved a few meters away from the group, absorbed in removing tender shoots from a branch. The sentence is passed, although the victim doesn't know it yet, and immediately the stalking begins. The feline glides from branch to branch, its body flattened against the wood, its long tail adjusting constantly to maintain perfect balance. Measure each jump, calculate the resistance of each support, aware that a creaking branch or a leaf falling out of place could cause its opportunity to vanish in a burst of alarmed cries. The feline is in no hurry, and displays infinite patience in its stalking. Already in an advantageous position, the predator is now a living statue, fused with the tree, its breathing slow, almost imperceptible, waiting for the precise moment. The macaque, unconcerned, turns around, offering its back and neck. This is the fatal mistake the panther was waiting for. From its perch, no more than 6 meters away, the feline tenses. Its rear muscles contract like springs, accumulating the energy of the ambush, and a violence capable of horrifying. There is no roar. There is no warning. Just a silent explosion of movement, with a lunge in the form of a leap in a perfect, swift arc. With the appearance of the hunter's shadow, the macaque looks up, his eyes opening with belated understanding. But there is no time left. The impact is brutal and with millimetric precision. The panther's hind claws lock onto the branch as its body surges forward with devastating force. There is no protracted struggle, no desperate struggle, just pure, raw slaughter. Saber fangs do not tear, but rather pierce, sinking between the mammal's cervical vertebrae in a single, lightning-fast movement. There is a sharp, almost inaudible click, and then silence falls over the forest, announcing the end of the hunt. The macaque's life is extinguished before its own alarm cry can form. With its prey secured in its jaws, The panther does not rest, for it is aware of the dangers lurking in its vicinity. The forest floor is the territory of other opportunists, and the fruits of their labor must be protected at all costs. Losing prey in an ecosystem as unforgiving as Annapurna can mean succumbing to profound famine. The hunter drags the inert body, which weighs almost half her weight, to a higher, safer fork in the branches, a movement that demonstrates disproportionate strength. There, suspended over the void, her solitary and methodical feast begins. Once satiated, it will cover the remains with leaves and small branches, a hidden pantry in the jungle sky, to which it will return until only the bones remain, demonstrating that not even such a bloodthirsty predator can afford to waste sustenance. After devouring what has been a feast, this master of the forest heights curls up to enjoy a calm digestion in the presence of his best companion, solitude. The life of the clouded leopard takes place in this vertical domain, in a solitary existence, an extremely hermit-like behavior. His temperament is elusive, a reflection of his nature as an ambush hunter. He does not seek unnecessary confrontations. Despite being a feared predator, the panther does not put up a fight against the lords of the land, such as the bear or packs of wolves. Her kingdom is vertical, and her escape is an ascent to the heights, where her pursuers, no matter how hard they try, cannot follow her. Their domain is defined by the possession of a vast territory that they patrol tirelessly, not to socialize but to warn. To avoid any unpleasant encounters with one of its fellow creatures, it leaves its scent on tree bark, a trail of urine, and deep claw marks that are an unequivocal message, a warning that leaves no doubt about the limits of their domain, and above all, the ferocity that will be faced by those intruders who dare to violate them. Any intrusion by a rival will be met not with a display, but with a silent, violent confrontation in the gloom of the canopy. In a clash of two beasts for the right to ownership of a vast area of forest, a portion of the Annapurna rich in prey. But no matter how vast the clouded leopard's domain is, it ends where the trees give way to rock and ice. Ascending beyond the canopy, the landscape is stripped bare, and survival changes its rules. Home winter music. Here on the windswept ledges, danger lurks not in the shadows of leaves, but in the void itself. And a new chronicle begins, that of a life lived on the edge of the abyss. Weighing up to 75 kilograms and with a robust build, the baral, or blue sheep, is the true ruler of the steep slopes of Annapurna. Its fur, a dense layer of gray and brown hues, takes on a bluish glow under the relentless light of the high-altitude sun, a ghostly hue that gives it its name among the whispers of the wind. It is a being forged by the Creator himself for survival in the abyss. Its body is compact and muscular, supported by short, powerful legs that give it a low center of gravity, essential for stability in a vertical world. On the heads of males, two heavy curved horns rise in dark arcs against the sky. They grow upward, curve outward, and then twist back in a death spiral, weapons of polished keratin forged in countless duels. Females also have them, but they are shorter and less imposing. The secret of their dominance over the precipice lies in their hooves. Each one is divided, with razor-sharp outer edges that cling to the slightest crack in the rock, and concave, rubbery inner pads that cling to the surface with the tenacity of moss. They are the tools of a prodigious climber, who sees a comfortable home in the most rugged landscape. The blue sheep's life is spent above the tree line, in alpine meadows overlooking drops of hundreds of meters. Here, the air is thin, and the wind is a constant adversary, presenting itself in gusts capable of wiping out life in seconds. Of course, in a world made of stone thousands of meters above sea level, vegetation is not particularly lush. The existence of this majestic ungulate is summed up in a perpetual search for sustenance in an inert landscape. As a herbivore, its diet consists of the few treasures that the mountains offer at these altitudes. Alpine grasses sprouting between the rocks, reeds hardened by the cold, and lichens that are barely a spot of color on the stone. Food is not a banquet, it is a discovery. He spends most of his daylight hours moving with deliberate calm along paths that are barely a suggestion on the cliff face. Its keen sense of sight, with horizontal pupils that give it a panoramic field of vision, constantly scans the environment. This enviable vision not only seeks out scarce food, but also watches the perimeter, attentive to the shadow of death. Being targeted by a predator as bloodthirsty as the mountain ghost, the snow leopard, the cuckold lives in constant tension, because you never know when, at any moment, a ferocious feline could appear out of nowhere. In this regard, the Baral's main defense is not speed on the flat, but immobility. Sensing a threat, or detecting abnormal movement from miles away, the ram freezes. Its blue fur merges with the rock, its silhouette breaks against the stone background, and for a moment, it ceases to exist, becoming part of the mountain. Many predators pass by, unable to distinguish the living form from the inert stone. But when stealth fails, and the snow leopard launches an attack, the Baral, far from surrendering to a painful death, reveals his true mastery. Turning the winding terrain into its defense, this beast flees into the void. With a burst of energy, he leaps from the ledge he's on to another, several meters away, through a dizzying drop. With each jump, he lands with pinpoint precision on ledges no more than a few centimeters high. His hooves grip, his body absorbs the impact, and for a second, he teeters on the edge of the abyss. The predator, heavier and less specialized in this vertical dance, is often forced to stop, watching helplessly as its prey vanishes into a labyrinth of rock walls where it cannot follow. The blue ram uses geography as his shield, the precipice as his salvation. Far from the hermit and elusive life of the clouded leopard, outside the mating season, blue sheep live in herds that can number dozens of individuals. In these groups, the survival of each ungulate depends on the collective. Hundreds of eyes scan the horizon, and an alarm signal from a single member can save the entire group. While gregarious life has its benefits, and these flocks tend to be peaceful, all traces of peace are shattered when winter approaches and the call of procreation is heard in the distance. The air becomes tense, and the biggest and strongest males begin to compete for the right to the females. The confrontation is a ritual of brute force. Two rival males face each other, their necks swollen, their gazes fixed. They step back, measuring the distance, and then without anything to contain their overwhelming violence, they charge. The impact is an echo that resonates in the silence of the mountain. The horns collide with a force capable of fracturing a skull, but their foreheads are endowed with supernatural strength to withstand these titanic collisions. They push, they struggle, their hooves fighting for traction on the rocky ground. It's not just a test of strength, it's a deadly dance on the edge of the precipice, where one misstep means a fatal fall. The fight can last for hours, a battle of attrition until one of the two gives in. The defeated man retreats, humiliated, while the victor claims his harem, exclusive access to the females of the group. A coveted trophy that will allow him to copulate with dozens of sheep, as if there were no tomorrow. After the brief copulation, the male disengages from parenting duties, leaving all responsibility to the females. The female, after a gestation of about 160 days, will seek an isolated and protected place in the cliffs to give birth, usually to a single lamb. And here, in such a remote place at the edge of the planet, the ultimate miracle of their adaptation occurs. Within a few hours of birth, the shaky but steady calf is able to stand up and follow its mother. In less than a day, He can navigate the dangerous slopes, his small hooves already equipped with survival instincts. It is an absolute necessity, because in this vertical realm, immobility is a death sentence, and the young are easy targets. But the struggle for existence on Annapurna is not only fought on the bare heights, on rock and ice. As the altitude decreases, the landscape changes. The rock gives way again to forests of bamboo and rhododendrons. Here, hidden among the dense foliage, an inhabitant of an unexpected color lives a completely different life, a life of stealth and solitude. Moving slowly through the thick woods, a flash of fire breaks the monotony of green and gray. Through the branches, life presents itself in a small jar, a wild inhabitant weighing just 6 kilograms. It is the red panda, a tiny creature covered in a dense reddish-brown coat, a sumptuous, thick coat that insulates it from the penetrating cold of the mountains. His face is a mask of white fur, with distinctive markings that look like dark tears falling from his eyes. And then there's her tail, a magnificent piece, ringed with light and dark tones, almost as long as its body. It is not a simple appendix. It's a multifaceted survival tool, a precise counterweight for maintaining balance on the thinnest branches, and a luxurious blanket that wraps you during freezing nights to retain vital warmth. Its paws are covered with dense fur that insulates it from ice and snow, and its semi-retractable claws are perfect for clinging to tree bark. But the secret to gliding through the branches with the agility of an acrobat is hidden in his wrists, in the form of a false thumb, a modified bone that allows him to grip the bamboo stalks with astonishing dexterity. The mere existence of the majestic red panda is a contradiction of nature, for despite being considered a carnivore, its diet is based almost entirely on the completely nutritious shoots and leaves of bamboo. Despite choosing this modest food as their sustenance, the truth is that their short and simple digestive system is highly inefficient at processing cellulose, forcing them to live in austerity, in a delicate energy balance. Given the questionable nutritional value of bamboo, the mammal must consume nearly a third of its body weight each day, a task that takes up more than half of its waking hours. For this reason, their movements are slow, methodical, and deliberate. Every climb up a tree, every movement along a branch, is a calculated investment of energy. You can't afford to waste calories. He spends his active hours foraging with infinite, almost desperate patience. It moves through the dense bamboo undergrowth, using its keen sense of smell to locate the freshest and most nutritious shoots. With his false thumb, he grasps a stem, brings it close to his mouth, and with methodical precision, pulls off the leaves. Of course, when the Annapurna ecosystem proves unusually generous, presenting ripe fruits, berries, flowers, or even bird eggs or insects in its path, the panda doesn't think twice, immediately incorporating them into its usually modest diet. When he's not devouring a succulent bamboo leaf, he's probably immersed in the exhausting task of resting. This tree dweller can spend up to 13 hours a day sleeping or resting, often curled up in the crook of a tree, its magnificent tail wrapped around its body like a comfortable blanket. Their twilight life restricts their activity to the dim hours of dawn and dusk, thus avoiding both the heat of the day and the extreme cold of midnight. For the red panda, there's nothing better than living alone to spend more than half the day in a comforting sleep. Therefore, outside of the brief mating season, it does not tolerate the presence of others of its species at all. In fact, an important task that occupies part of their limited active time is marking the boundaries of their domains with secretions from the scent glands located on their feet and at the base of their tail, thus leaving chemical messages on trees and rocks. They are olfactory warnings that other pandas can read from a great distance, invisible borders that indicate that it is dangerous to cross. Despite its peaceful and calm temperament, the life of the red panda is constantly put to the test. In this ecosystem dominated by the strict law of the food chain, its small size makes it potential prey for large predators. Voracious killers like the snow leopard and the clouded leopard are its main adversaries, beasts that will not hesitate to claim the life of this compact and at first glance, defenseless creature. When threatened by a vicious hunter, their first and most effective defense, short of launching into a fierce fight, is stealth and camouflage. Its striking reddish color blends perfectly with the rust-colored moss and lichens that cover the tree trunks in its habitat. When it detects a threat, its instinct is to freeze, becoming a motionless blur among the foliage, or to climb to the highest branches, out of reach of ground hunters. But when cornered, this docile creature reveals an unexpected side. Rearing up on its hind legs in an attempt to appear larger and more intimidating, the cuddly panda can swipe out with its sharp claws. While these attacks are not particularly lethal, with the alternative being a violent hunt, this last desperate resort by the reddish mammal is a true demonstration of its courage and rebellion in the face of the warm shelter of death. But survival in Annapurna isn't always a matter of stealth and solitude. In the open valleys and alpine meadows above the forests, a thunderous, blood-curdling howl heralds the beginning of a new hunt. Weighing in at around 35 kilograms, and with a slender, powerful body, the Himalayan wolf is a predator forged by altitude and extreme cold. Its fur is dense and woolly, an armor of gray, ochre, and black tones that insulates it from the icy winds that sweep across the peaks. Its large, broad legs act like snowshoes, allowing it to move across the snowy terrain with tireless endurance, covering dozens of kilometers in a single day without showing fatigue. While wolf packs manage to impose their will through the strength of the group, acting as a powerful hunting unit, not all dogs are fortunate enough to live within a united pack. Some live as lonely ghosts and must forge their kingdom from scratch. Whether due to a lack of resources or due to altercations with the alphas, some wolves are forced to leave the pack and fend for themselves, which could be a death sentence or the start of a formidable new pack to dominate the valleys. With loneliness as a constant companion, the journey of dispersion is a dangerous but necessary undertaking to avoid inbreeding and forge their own lineage. Life for a lone wolf is an existence on the brink of starvation. Their individual strength is not enough to bring down an adult blue sheep or a large tahr. Without the support of a large hunting pack, their survival depends on cunning and their ability to take advantage of every opportunity. These reclusive dogs feed on the smallest prey the mountains offer. A marmot surprised far from its burrow, an unsuspecting pika, or even the remains of a hunt abandoned by a snow leopard, are not at all contemptible food once they have already experienced hunger in person. His ribs stand out beneath his thick fur, a constant reminder of his precarious situation. But a hunger deeper than that in his stomach drives him forward. It is the hunger for company, the instinct to form a pack. As night falls, when the temperature drops to freezing levels, the lone wolf ascends a windswept ridge. He raises his head to the starry sky and lets out a howl. It is not a call to war or a declaration of territory. It's a question thrown into the icy void. A long, melancholic note that travels through the valleys and peaks, in an attempt to capture the attention of an equally lonely fellow human being. Most of the time, the only response is the whistling of the wind. For weeks, their journey is an odyssey through hostile territory, traversing mountain passes at over 5,000 meters above sea level, crossing icy rivers and descending into forested valleys. On these marathon journeys, their keen sense of smell not only seeks prey, but also information. He reads the invisible boundaries of other packs, urine messages and marks on the ground that warn him of established wolf domains, territories he must avoid at all costs, as an incursion would be punishable by death. One night, after a lonely howl, a distant answer comes on the wind. It is faint, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. It is not the mighty chorus of an established pack, but rather the symphony of another lone howl, a female. Immediately, the wolf's instinct kicks in, and it changes course, moving with new purpose across the rugged terrain. The canine, driven by its deep-rooted gregarious behavior, follows the perceived trail, the subtle scent of a she-wolf in the snow. Finally, after an exhausting journey, he sees her, a gray silhouette against the rocks, as cautious and lean as he was. The meeting is not a friendly greeting, but a ritual filled with tension and mistrust. Having survived hell alone, they can't afford to blindly trust another outsider. The male approaches slowly, his body crouched and his tail lowered, a posture that communicates submission and lack of aggression, while the she-wolf stares at him, her muscles tense, and a low growl vibrating in her chest. Communication is a language of subtle gestures, the movement of an ear, the position of the tail, the tension of the muscles. The male takes a step, and the female does not retreat, a subtle act that hides the formation of a close bond between the two. The dogs approach each other until they can smell each other, reading each other's history and their scents. Little by little, the grunts soften until they become moans, and the tension begins to break. The wolves, once tense, adopt playful postures, beginning a bond that will last a lifetime. However, the union has not yet been consummated. The final test will be your first cooperative hunt. Fortunately, shortly after the encounter, an unfortunate marmot appears on the horizon, sunbathing on a rock. Although not a particularly robust prey, as individuals, the marmot would have every chance of escaping to the safety of its burrow. But now there are two of them, and the dogs are beginning to enjoy the benefits of family life. Without a howl, without an obvious sign, each one understands his role in the massacre. The female begins a wide circle, using the terrain to hide, while the male advances slowly, attracting the marmot's attention. The alert prey sees it, emits an alarm whistle, and prepares to run towards its shelter. But he is not alone, and at that moment, the female emerges from her hiding place, blocking the escape route. For a second, the groundhog hesitates, confused, and that fleeting hesitation becomes his end. The male pounces with his bite on the now inert body of the mammal, and the hunt is over in an instant. Since there is no hierarchy in life as a couple, both dogs share the modest prey, devouring what is a delicacy compared to their life alone. That night, on the same ridge where the male once howled in solitude, two voices rise. It is no longer a melancholic question. It is a duet, a harmonious howl that resonates with new force. The lament is now a declaration. They have claimed this unoccupied valley as their own, heralding the birth of a new herd high in the Annapurna, a new dynasty that will grow with the promise of the first litter when snow once again covers the peaks. On the other side of the mountain range, far from the territories of the newly formed herd, on the forested slopes, a lone colossus forges his own path, a giant who needs no companion, but relies solely on his individual power and his ability to devour everything Annapurna serves him. Moving like a living mountain weighing up to 200 kilograms and over 2 meters tall, the Himalayan black bear is a giant recluse, a world devourer who has settled in this isolated and far from hospitable habitat. His body is a mass of muscle and power, covered by a cloak of night, a thick, coarse black fur that sometimes, in the sun, flashes with brown tones. But on his chest he bears an unmistakable mark, a cream-colored crescent moon, a pale crest against the darkness, an emblem unique to each individual. Its head is large and wide, with an elongated snout. His eyes are comparatively small, almost lost in his vast face, because his world is not perceived through sight, but through smell. Its nose, constantly moist and moving, is an organ of exquisite sensitivity, capable of detecting the scent of carrion from miles away or the perfume of ripe fruit hidden in dense foliage. Its claws, up to 5 centimeters long, are shorter and more curved than those of other members of its lineage, for these are not digging weapons for vast plains, but climbing hooks, tools forged to conquer the vertical realm of the valley trees. The life of the black bear is an eternal dance dictated by the ups and downs of hunger and abundance. After surviving the harsh Asian winter, this beast awakens from a long, emaciated sleep. The cold has consumed its fat reserves, and it emerges from its den with a single pressing command: eat. Although the days of thawing have begun, early spring offers little, and the mammal needs to roam its vast territory, a domain that can span hundreds of square kilometers in search of any source of sustenance, however modest. With the strength of its front legs, it overturns rotten logs and heavy rocks, exposing colonies of insect and ant larvae, which it eagerly devours. Although they may be humble appetizers, they become delicacies when you haven't even tasted food for months. In its frantic wanderings, the bear scours the valleys for the remains of animals that did not survive the winter, showing no objection to becoming an opportunistic scavenger. His powerful sense of smell guides him through the melting snow to find these mountain gifts. As soon as he finds a carcass, without thinking, he pounces on it and eats it until it disappears. With the fleeting passing of spring, the arrival of summer is imminent, and the forest is transformed, once again changing the eating habits of the bear. The once barren hillsides are covered with wild berries, and the trees begin to bear their fruit. The bear, witnessing all this abundance, moves through this ephemeral feast, tearing off entire branches to bring handfuls of berries to its mouth. But his greatest desire, a treasure for which he will risk everything, is honey. His keen nose detects the buzzing and sweet scent of a hive far away, often high in an ancient tree, and then the ascent begins. It is not an agile climber like the clouded leopard, but an unstoppable brute force. Its claws sink into the bark, its powerful limbs propel it upwards, ignoring the height. Upon reaching the hive, the swarm of guard bees erupts into a defensive frenzy. Thousands of stingers pierce its fur, but its skin is thick, and its dense coat absorbs most of the assault. The bear barely registers the pain, and blinded by the desire for the prize, with a swipe of its paw that splinters the wood, it tears open the hive, exposing the golden combs, teeming with fresh honey and protein-rich larvae. The omnivore sticks its snout into the cavity, and its long, agile tongue does the rest, fanning out, licking up the sticky honey and juicy larvae, ignoring the bees crawling across its face. It's a frenetic feast, a reward of pure energy. Given the abundant resources in the mild climate, summer in Annapurna is undoubtedly the best time of year for this giant. Of course, this season doesn't last forever, and little by little the warm days fade away, announcing the arrival of autumn, dyeing the forest in ochre and gold. With the change in climate, an ancestral urgency takes hold of the bear. Aware that autumn is merely the calm before the winter storm, the titan goes into a feeding frenzy to accumulate the thick layer of fat it will need to survive the winter. The colossus limits all its activity to a single task: the relentless pursuit of calories. This ecosystem devourer concentrates in oak forests, gobbling up acorns by the thousands. It climbs nut trees and shakes the branches with violent force, causing a shower of food which it then collects from the forest floor. Every day is a battle against time, every nut a drop of fuel for the long dream that lies ahead. During all this time, the robust mammal lives in complete solitude, exhibiting extremely hermit-like behavior. Outside of the brief and sometimes violent mating season, it avoids its own kind. An encounter between two adult males is often a tense affair, a display of size and power to avoid physical conflict, which would inevitably end in excessive violence. In these far from peaceful encounters, both bears rear up on their hind legs, emit deep growls, and snap their jaws, an intimidation that usually resolves the dispute over a fruit tree or a female. Although it is a formidable predator, it does not seek confrontation with other large hunters. He respects the howl of the wolf pack and gives way to a big male if the situation requires it. His power lies in his individuality, not in conquest. Home winter music. With the arrival of the first snowfall, the bear begins a new search. But this time, it's not for food, but for a comfortable winter shelter where he can spend the sub-zero days. The giant explores caves, deep crevices between rocks, or cavities under the roots of a fallen tree. Once the location is chosen, he prepares it, dragging dry leaves, moss, and branches to create an insulating bed. And when the winter storm finally hits, the bear goes into his den. In the gloom of the undergrowth, a sharp-fanged ghost begins its winter vigil. This is not a bloodthirsty feline, but a majestic ungulate capable of looking winter straight in the face and living to tell the tale. Weighing rarely more than 18 kilograms and measuring barely 1 meter in length, the musk deer is a sight in the Annapurna forests. Its body is covered with dense, brittle fur in shades of brown and gray, a thick, oily layer that insulates it from the cold and humidity. And dissolves it into the shadows. The body of this false deer is, to say the least, somewhat unusual. Its hind legs, noticeably longer and more muscular than its front legs, give it a hunched posture with its rump higher than its shoulders. This ungulate is not designed for sustained running in open fields, but rather for explosive agility on difficult terrain. The most puzzling feature that sets it apart from elk and other deer is its notable lack of antlers. Instead of this bone crown, males sport a different weapon. Two saber-like fangs, sharp as daggers, that descend from their upper jaw to 3 inches below their chin. These are weapons not for defense against predators, but for war between rivals. In their abdomen, males also hide the secret of their name, a gland that produces a musk with a penetrating and complex aroma, an essence that is the center of their social and reproductive universe. The survival of the musk deer depends not on strength or confrontation, but on the art of not being seen, of remaining unnoticed in a world filled with predators. Like the enormous black bear, the ungulate is a creature of solitude, moving at twilight with absolute stealth through the dense labyrinth of trees and bushes. His steps are silent, his movements brief and cautious, each movement is calculated. Unlike the hibernating species of Annapurna, musk deer cannot afford to sink into eternal sleep until spring arrives, but instead face it firsthand in a daily battle against scarcity. When snow covers the forest floor with a thick, silent blanket, searching for food becomes a daunting task. Its diet consists of the hardiest foods the forest offers, lichens torn from tree bark, mosses, dry twigs, and the tender shoots it manages to unearth. Using its small front hooves to frantically dig in the snow, the herbivore creates small craters to reach buried vegetation. Every bite is an investment of precious energy, a hard-won victory against a world that hides everything under a white veil. Despite living in a winter hell like Annapurna on these white days, the deer must be on the lookout for an enemy perhaps even more formidable than the low temperatures. The existence of this ungulate is a constant vigil, because in these dark forests, death lurks in every shadow. The snow leopard, the clouded leopard, the wolf, and even the fox see this small herbivore as a crucial link in the food chain, a delicious piece of meat that can save them from starvation. Faced with this, the herbivore's first defense is its immobility. At the slightest suspicious sound, it freezes, its camouflage fur breaking its silhouette against the backdrop of logs and leaves. He can remain in this absolute stillness for long minutes, becoming a living statue, invisible to less attentive eyes. When this passive defense fails, this eager survivor does not embark on a long, predictable run that would make it an affordable prey for swift predators, but instead, its escape is an explosion of erratic, powerful leaps. Using its disproportionate hind legs, it launches itself in a series of unpredictable zigzags, bouncing off the ground like a stone thrown across water. It is a tactic designed to confuse the pursuer in the crowded environment of the forest, allowing it to disappear into the trees before the carnivore can adjust its attack, and giving itself the privilege of leaving one of the rulers of the food chain with an empty stomach. Not far from the domains that the musk deer fiercely defends, another creature appears in the pale landscape capable of withstanding the hostilities of Annapurna, even in its days of complete austerity. It is a fiery stain that moves between the white and gray of the lower slopes. It is not a giant, but rather an absolute master of opportunism. Moving through the vegetation, the red fox, a creature barely a meter long and rarely weighing more than 10 kilograms, is a testament to the creator's endless imagination when depicting the wild species of this inhospitable corner of the planet. Its fur, a fiery reddish color that burns against the paleness of the snow, is a dense, two-layered coat that protects it from the biting cold. Its tail, a thick, magnificent brush with a white tip, acts as a counterweight to its agile maneuvers, and as a thermal blanket that envelops its body during breaks on the ice. Its legs are long and thin, ending in pads that allow it to move with surprising stealth. In this hostile ecosystem, where giants reign supreme, the compact fox relies on its keen senses to find a foothold in the wild Annapurna, an ear capable of detecting the movement of a rodent under a meter of snow, and a sense of smell that can decipher the stories of the wind, from the promise of distant carrion to the warning of a larger predator. This mammal survives not because of its strength, but because of its infinite capacity for adaptation. He is not a specialist, but an absolute generalist, an essential trait in an environment where food sources are unpredictable and ephemeral. Their diet is a mosaic of everything the mountains offer, from rodents like pikas and voles, to birds, insects, and the remains left behind by large hunters. While in the warmer seasons their palate expands to include berries, fruits, and roots, it is in winter that their most iconic hunting method takes place. On a snow-covered plain, the fox moves with its head tilted, its large ears triangulating an invisible sound source. He stops, completely motionless, listening to the almost imperceptible scratching of a pika in its tunnel beneath the white surface. Once it has fixed the exact position, the predator tenses. It rises into the air in a perfect, almost vertical, fiery-colored parabola, and then plummets. He falls headfirst, his front paws together, piercing the snow with the force of a spear to catch the rodent before it can react. It's an attack that relies entirely on sound, an all-or-nothing gamble in a silent world. But his cunning is not limited to a single technique. When the prey is a distracted monal pheasant on the ground, the fox transforms into a stealthy stalker. It uses every rock, every bush, and every depression in the ground as cover to hide its presence. He approaches with infinite patience until only a few meters separate him from his target. Then the stillness is broken. It explodes in a short, lightning-fast dash. A red flash that devours the distance in a blink, catching the bird before it can escape into the air, making itself a coveted prey in a world dominated by hunger. But when potential victims for his bite become scarce, this brutal hunter has no qualms about lowering himself and becoming a hungry opportunist. Here, the fox becomes a follower of ghosts, an extremely dangerous practice, but one that can yield its rewards. This small-scale predator knows full well that the howl of wolves or the presence of a snow leopard often means a feast is about to take place. So, keeping a safe distance, it watches from the safety of the cliffs as the larger predators hunt and feed. The canid waits for hours, sometimes days, until the carnivores have satiated themselves and abandoned the remains, a withdrawal that heralds the opportunity to claim its share. He tears shreds of frozen flesh from the carcass, a feast won not with strength, but with patience and intelligence. However, these approaches to the ecosystem's tormentors do not always have a pleasant ending. In the Annapurna predator hierarchy, the fox finds itself in a precarious position. A pack of wolves will not hesitate to hunt you down if the opportunity arises. And for a snow leopard, a fox is considerable prey. Their survival against these superior adversaries depends not on winning a fight, but on ensuring that such a duel never occurs. His senses are always on high alert, and at the first sign of danger, he doesn't confront it, he disappears. He uses his intimate knowledge of the terrain, sneaking into rock crevices, abandoned burrows, or the thicket of a thicket, becoming a fiery ghost, as elusive as the mountain wind. As the fox marches through the forest, hundreds of meters high, on the icy air currents that sweep across the peaks, a penetrating gaze scans the vast mountain tapestry from above. For this predator, the world is not a maze of paths and smells, but a map spread out at its feet. A shadow is projected onto the slopes of Annapurna, a dark patch that slides at dizzying speed over the carpet of rock and snow. It is the golden eagle, an aerial predator whose wingspan of nearly 2.5 meters commands respect and fear throughout the ecosystem. Its body, a mantle of deep brown, almost black feathers, displays a darkness that contrasts with the golden glow of the feathers that crown its nape and head, a golden halo that gives it its name. Their amber orbs of eyes display an almost supernatural acuity, capable of distinguishing the slightest movement from miles away, a visual feat that turns the vast and overwhelming landscape into a detailed map of potential prey. Its beak is a keratin hook, sharp and curved, a marvel of creation, a tool designed to tear through the toughest flesh. But its real weapons, which it uses to instill fear throughout the food chain, are its claws. These formidable blades, with sharp, curved rear spurs, are capable of exerting pressure that fractures bones and extinguishes life in an instant. The eagle's domain is the open sky, the vast expanses of air above the tree line, where thermal currents rise from the valleys like invisible columns. She spends hours gliding in wide, majestic circles, flapping her wings as little as possible, a master of energy efficiency. From her celestial vantage point, more than 3,000 meters high, the world unfolds below her. It does not look for traces or follow smells. Read the language of movement. His penetrating gaze sweeps the slopes, ignoring the static landscape, searching for the anomaly, the twitch of a muscle, the flicker of fur that is not rock. Suddenly, his patience is rewarded. On a distant ledge, a Himalayan tahr calf has momentarily become separated from its mother, venturing to nibble at a tough tuft of grass, a grave mistake for which it is about to pay dearly. He is young, inexperienced, and vulnerable. For the eagle, it's like a meal served on a silver platter. In an instant, the eagle cannot hold back, and the attack begins. The bird of prey dips one wing, exits its gliding spiral, and folds in on itself. It doesn't fly, but rather collapses by folding its wings and becoming a living arrow of feathers that falls from the sky at more than 300 kilometers per hour. The wind whistles through their feathers in a rising roar, and for the predator, the world becomes a blur of grays and whites, with only one point remaining in sharp focus, the silhouette of its prey. The young tahr looks up, alerted by the sound that tears through the air. But there is no time to understand, nor to flee, for his sentence has already been passed. The impact is thunderous, a sharp blow that predicts death. In fractions of a second, The hunter's claws open and strike the tahr with the force of a rock thrown from the sky. The spurs sink deeply, but the main force of the impact is designed to unbalance, to push. The tahr, struck with incomprehensible violence, loses its balance on the edge of the precipice. For a moment, their hooves scratch the rock, searching for a grip that no longer exists. And then, it falls. It falls silently into the abyss, bouncing off the cliff walls. The executioner of the skies does not follow its fall, but opens its wings, slows its dive with astonishing aerodynamic mastery, and describes a circle, watching the descent of its prey. To land with imperial calm next to the broken body, hundreds of meters below. Thus, in just a few seconds the hunt is over, and the eagle has amassed a copious prey, perfect for stuffing itself to the gills. The bird uses its beak to tear off the ungulate's thick fur and expose the flesh. It feeds right there at the bottom of the ravine, tearing off pieces and swallowing them, always alert, with its head raised between each bite, monitoring its surroundings. The golden eagle is the embodiment of territorial dominance. A pair bonded for life defends a hunting ground that can cover hundreds of square kilometers, proclaiming their ownership with spectacular nuptial and warning flights, aerial undulations in which they rise and swoop, a signature in the sky that any intruding eagle can read. Her position as ruler of the air puts her in conflict with other inhabitants of the skies. This ace of the skies doesn't hesitate to harass a bearded vulture, forcing it to drop a precious bone, or to steal prey from a smaller falcon, an act of aerial piracy executed with ruthless authority. Since it is vulnerable when feeding on the ground, within range of wolf packs or the grasp of a hungry snow leopard, as soon as it has a prey in its grasp, it is quick to gobble it up, always with its gaze scanning the cliffs for any movement that might herald the arrival of the masters of the land. Precisely in that same realm of rocks and precipices that the golden eagle watches over from above, a tyrant appears who has turned the inhospitable slopes of Annapurna into his personal kingdom. A hunter who does not descend from the sky, but emerges from the stone itself. A bloodthirsty predator capable of subduing the entire ecosystem to its will. Weighing rarely more than 50 kilograms, the formidable snow leopard is not a giant, but rather a ferocious beast ready to inflict terror on any wildlife that dares to invade its stony domain. While this feared feline wreaks havoc on the lower echelons of the food chain whenever it appears, it's not for nothing that this carnivore has earned the name, the Mountain Ghost. Rather than ruling its vast territory with an iron fist, flaunting its power, the whitish feline prefers to disappear into the mountains, only showing up when it's too late for its prey. In this, its fur is a work of art of nature. This is no mere coat, but rather a thick, pale cloak of invisibility, tinged with a smoky gray flecked with dark rosettes, which dissolves against the bare rock and perpetual snow. Its enormous paws, wrapped in thick fur, are natural snowshoes that distribute its weight, allowing it to walk on deep snow without sinking and without making a single sound. Its tail, a cylinder of thick fur nearly a meter long, is its most versatile tool. A rudder for balancing on impossible leaps, a living scarf to protect it from the freezing cold while at rest, and an anchor of stability in the vertical world it calls home. The life of the snow leopard is a perpetual struggle against the hostilities of Annapurna. In addition to the harsh low temperatures, being an avid predator in one of the most austere ecosystems on the planet isn't a particularly profitable practice for this feline, so whenever prey appears in its path, it can't fail. Given the scarcity of potential victims, the feline dominates an immense territory, covering hundreds of square kilometers, a vast and empty kingdom where somewhere a tasty prey is hidden. Their main sustenance is the blue sheep, the same masters of the precipice that survived the ravages of these slopes. After several days of exploring his domain, perched on a high ridge, his keen gaze scanning the valleys and hillsides, the hunter has finally located the location of a potential victim for his bite. It is a large herd of burrell more than a kilometer away, a feast of ungulates from which the predator can choose a not-so-famous winner. Despite having gone several days without tasting the exquisite flavor of prey, like a seasoned strategist, the leopard does not rush, and instead of launching an impromptu attack, it remains motionless for hours, a statue of fur and patience, watching, waiting. It's not until after several hours of siege that the feline descends, not directly toward the flock, but through ravines and crevices, using every shadow, every rocky outcrop, to conceal its advance, and more importantly, its cruel intentions. Each step is coldly calculated, and any noise their advance might make is simultaneously masked by the whistling of the heavy blizzards. When one of the rams raises its head, the feline freezes. A single loose pebble, a single snort of breath visible in the freezing air, and the hunt will be over before it begins, plunging him into deep starvation. After hours of excruciatingly slow progress, the hunter manages to position himself above the herd, approximately 30 meters from what is about to become his dinner, a young buck grazing on a ledge. With the ungulate completely unaware that death is approaching, the leopard crouches, its pale green eyes fixed on the back of its prey's neck. After a brief wait where the tension is palpable, the grace period has expired and the feline abandons its hiding place, emerging from the rocks with an apotheotic leap of 15 meters, an impossible trajectory across the abyss that has the Baral's bulk as its destination. The herbivore raises its head at the last moment, managing to see with terror the materializing death. There is no time for a bleat, let alone an attempt to escape. The leopard hits with the force of an avalanche, and its razor-sharp claws immediately dig into the back of its prey. In what appears to be a show of clemency, but is actually an urge to devour its prey, the predator is quick to snuff out its life, closing its jaws on the neck of the ungulate, a single powerful bite that cracks the victim's spine, giving it eternal rest. The fight doesn't last seconds, it simply doesn't exist. It's more of an execution. After extinguishing the life of the Baral through its indolent bite, this brutal hunter drags the heavy carcass to a place of safety. A crevice in the rock or under an overhang, away from the watchful eyes of eagles and vultures. In this comfortable place, the carnivore feeds on this single prey for more than a week, returning to it again and again, a treasure amidst the famine that dominates Annapurna. With this enviable prey in its personal pantry, the feline guarantees its subsistence for the next few days, so the ecosystem will have a momentary respite from its ferocity. Of course, no carcass lasts forever, and sooner or later, the predator will return to the arena in search of another victim for its fleeting and heartless hunts. Although the formidable snow leopard stands as an all-powerful predator in Annapurna, the life of this majestic beast is not without danger. These threats come not from encounters with other feared predators, but from the imprint of human activity, a shadow that, although distant, looms with devastating force. The snow leopard, the ghost of the summit, is brutally hunted for its bones and its extravagant skin, coveted on black markets. The expansion of livestock farming in this isolated corner of the planet is another practice decimating these feline populations. As a result of conflicts with livestock, these hunters become prey, victims of retaliation. On the lower slopes, the red panda watches its bamboo world shrink. Forests, once endless, are now being cut down at an alarming rate for timber, and to make way for crops, fragmenting their habitat and isolating it into ever smaller patches. In these same forests, the musk deer is another of those wild inhabitants that suffers. Hunted relentlessly, not for its meat, but for its scent gland, this ungulate is a victim of illegal trade, a practice that threatens to make it extinct forever. But the challenges facing Annapurna from human activities are not limited to its wild inhabitants. The ecosystem itself suffers. Year after year, the eternal ice of the glaciers retreats. a symptom of a warming world, altering the water cycles that give life to the entire mountain range. Despite the numerous challenges facing this hostile corner of the planet, the good news is that we still have time to preserve this imposing mountain range in its purest and wildest state. Annapurna's delicate ecosystem, along with its wildlife, is in danger, and it is our duty to save these fantastic creatures from extinction, ensuring their continued reign over the mountain. Have you been amazed by the rawness of the wildlife in the untamed Annapurna? So leave us your like, and don't forget to comment on what your favorite wild species was. To make sure you don't miss any of our upcoming trips to the wildest corners of the planet, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Finally, share this video with your friends so they can learn about these beasts' struggle against the fury of the mountain range. Without further ado, we'll see you next time for more tales of sub-zero survival, relentless predators, and of course, wildlife stories.